Okay, thanks, Mike.
Okay, we're online today with Ron C. Moss. And if you don't know Ron, he's from Tasmania, Australia, outside of Hobart, I believe, right?
That's correct, yes.
Close enough. And beautiful place. And the other side of us in terms of seasons. And he's also an accomplished artist. He's a fantastic poet. And I have known Ron, I think I was thinking today, about 2 decades.
Yes, it would be, yes, yeah, definitely.
We first met in the World Haiku Club websites and things way back in the mid to late 90s, and grew up together in haiku. He grew a lot faster than me. You're far more accomplished. But what I'd like you to do is tell us, this is the old standard interview question, but I'll toss it to you. Tell me about you, where you live, what your background is outside of haiku.
Yeah, thanks, Mike, and thanks for having me. It's a great honor to be a part of this interview series. I think you're creating a great niche for haiku and interviews, and I can see it rivaling things like Parkinson and all those. Even what's that? Graham Norton, that English guy, gets the guests on. I can see it going great places. These interviews. Myself, well, I was born in Australia, but at a very young age, my parents took me to New Zealand, which was a great move. Beautiful country, and I grew up there. Probably, yes, to about the age of 25, met my wife, and we decided to come back to Australia because she was Australian as well. So we've been back in Tasmania, 30 odd years now. But I go back to New Zealand quite often to see family. So that's sort of areas I grew up. And of course, I've been very lucky to grow up in beautiful places with lots of wonderful mountains, and that obviously greatly affects my writing and my art. Only yesterday, I'm a bit leg sore today because I did quite a 4-hour walk up our mountain here, up a very steep part of the mountain. So my legs know about it today. But I think going way back, it was probably my early interest in martial arts that drew me to Eastern philosophies, and then seeing these wonderful little poems that just blew me away. These little succinct little 3-liners that just resonated so strongly with me, and I think it was probably in the early, probably late 90s when I started to try and write them. And I guess I'm a child of the internet as well. I mean, the internet came along just around that time, or for me it did, around 2000, somewhere around there. So then I was able to talk and work and write with all these amazing people all over the world. And as you said, Mike, those early World Haiku groups and those Yahoo, I think they were Yahoo groups, multimedia, and the famous workshop one, World Haiku Club Workshop. Mm-hmm. That was just an amazing introduction to writing haiku with other people. It also showed you a fair amount about human nature as well. There was plenty of flaming and arguments and bits and pieces, but I always tried to stay well out of that. So, but then of course, great kudos to you as well. I mean, you were well ahead of your time on the internet, starting up the Haiku Hut. Mm-hmm. Which was just, and your little online magazine short stuff. That was I think I published my first Haiga there. In fact, I'm sure I did, was with you there. And it was just a wonderful place for a lot of us to start out at, and get used to sort of writing and presenting stuff. And I remember Ray, who was Ray Rasmussen. Yeah, he was, wonderful. I think he showed a group of us the first how to put text on an image, which, I mean, that was just such an amazing thing back then. You know, to write a haiku or to have a lovely image that you might have taken, whether it's a photograph or even a painting, and to be able to put something on it was just amazing. So, especially a photo. I mean, obviously you could write on a painting, but with a photo you could put text on it. So it just made it something, and it was a nice nod to the traditional Haiga, to be able to do that. So I'm probably going off track, going down another road, but yeah. And I've lived in Tasmania 30 years with my wife Sharon, and I've been, as you know, a volunteer firefighter for over 20 years. So and I was in the archives office looking after all their photographic and film collections. So of Tasmanian archives. So I've recently retired from that. So now I've got more time to do the things I love. Of course, that's creating art and haiku and talking to great people like yourself.
Well, the other thing is that I think people would enjoy is where can people find you on the internet? Where do people find your work?
Well, I guess Google is you can't beat Google. I mean, yeah, I'm still finding my stuff I didn't realize I'd put out there on Google. I do have one of my things I want to do in the future is do a website. And I've been talking about that for years, but where I can put some galleries and sort of collect all my stuff up together. I do have my www.ronmoss.com will take you to my Redbubble site, but that's a bit out of date now. That's just where I put a lot of art in the early days. But I have the Haiku Foundation. I'm in the registry there. And also I've got a gallery there in the Haiga galleries. And I've got another one coming out in July. I think it's ready to go in July. So that's probably another 30 odd of my chosen Haiga. And I guess those sort of places is where you'll find my work. But yeah, I mean, also Vines magazine, lots of, that's sort of a Caroline Scarn in England. She runs the Hedgerow Publishing. Yep. She's also got an online journal, Vines, which is collaborative poetry or sequences and that. So yeah, just.
And you're on.
Oh, sorry.
You're on Facebook.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. I'm on
Facebook
for now. There's lots of things going on with Facebook and the Australian government, but we won't go there.
Don't get me started on that one. That one's too bizarre. But I have a feeling it will get settled. But you are on Facebook and you do post your work there in Virtual Haiku, I know, and Trevini and in Buds. So I see your stuff all the time on Facebook.
Yeah, well, I've just started getting used to Instagram, so I've been putting a lot of, or I usually put a Haiga a day on Instagram, and also, of course, my YouTube channel, which we'll put the link up later. That's got a playlist of over 35 films I've made, or they're like little slideshow films that I've put together with my work, and some of them. Steve Hodge is a great musician and good friend and wonderful poet, and he's donated some of his music, and he actually created some of the early YouTube films too.
I can recommend.
So,
and one of the things I will tell people is you need to go, if you're listening to this, look underneath the YouTube video when it's posted here of the interview, click on Ron's site and subscribe. You won't be disappointed. It's some of the best stuff out there, and he has linked to an awful lot of stuff too. So highly recommend it. YouTube is a great spot to find out about Ron.
Thanks, Mike. You're very kind. One thing about Mike, I think we should have an interview. We should interview Mike one day. he's just done so much over the years for all of us, for the community. And that's the wonderful thing about haiku. It's the community, or senru or haiga, or whatever way we're working with it. It's the wonderful community out there of like-minded people. It's just, yeah, fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the things that it leads into the next part of this discussion, because everybody talks about it. How did you get into haiku? How did what brought you in, and what attracted you to it so much? What's the
connection? Yeah, well, I guess as I hinted on before, it was that I got interested in Zen and Eastern philosophy, and I've been a meditator for close to over 25 years. So to me, that was just a natural part of that sort of practice, spiritual meditative practice, being out in nature, taking notice of the beauties, and wanting to just write about it in a way that I think I always tried to write in a way that resonated strongly with me. It just made me go, wow. And it's the English language it's an amazing thing, but it's the least amount of words sometimes that works the best. Leaving that space in there for the reader to put their own thoughts and feelings in, rather than telling them. But yeah, the way I got into it, was probably very much through that, reading a lot of people like Alan Watts and haiku anthologies and that over the years. They were the sort of things. I think I read a lot of haiku. I mean, once I decided I like this, I sort of read a lot of it. And I think I would recommend that to anyone, is to really, read as much as you can, and, good quality. You'll know if it's good, because you'll have that feeling when you've read it. But that's what drew me into it. It was very much because I live in a place that has a lot of mountains and wilderness and rainforest. It was just a lovely way to be able to articulate what I was seeing and hearing and feeling.
It's about your life.
Yes.
Haiku is about the individual experiences that hit you every day, and they're gigantic. They don't make the newspapers. They're the things that when you notice the first blossom, or you notice the first tree starting to shed its leaves, all of those things. And every day, if you live in a place like I do, I mean, I live in the middle of nowhere too. And
yes, that's right. Yeah. And there's been some wonderful poets that have written about being, just being in suburbia and being in cities and that sort of thing as well. So, I mean, that's always possible. I read something the other day, a quote from Alan Watts. One of Alan Watts' book was, "Genuine haiku contains the universe." Kind of like that.
Keep it simple.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, exactly. And as you can see, probably over my shoulder there, I'm a bit like over your shoulder. One just ends up collecting oodles of haiku books and philosophy books and those things that, I don't know, it make genuine haiku. Well, it feels like a genuine life too. That contains the universe. That if you live in a certain way, it feels very genuine.
I got a chance in 1965 to Alan Watts came. He was promoting his books to Michigan State University, which I love, and I got a chance to meet him. He was quite a character, by the way.
Wow!
And he was at the time, and this is the 60s. He didn't have long hair or anything. He was wearing a black suit and a white shirt and a thin black tie and smoking a pipe.
Yeah,
which I think he did for all of his life. And afterwards, he was at Akiva with about 100 people. That was a big deal back then for somebody who wrote a book about Zen. So that was another one of those things that generated some interest with me. Was I had the same thing. I have a 40-year practice, and meditation is an interesting thing, because when you snap out of it, your mind is clear. And so you can write down anything you see, can be really interesting. I write a lot about squirrels and chickadees. So I don't know about you.
Yeah, well, I think it's that calm. I mean, Shunryu Suzuki Roshi, very famous Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind book. He talks about, attaining that sort of calmness, being calm, and leading a genuine life, and really Zazen or meditation is the most wonderful thing a human being can do. Really, is to attain that stillness.
And that's it's, although it's not an essential ingredient of haiku, it's certainly a good catalyst for it, because your whole day is spent thinking about things, and when you can snap out of that, all of a sudden all the things around you are interesting. You don't have to worry about your checkbook.
That's right. Yeah, definitely.
Who are people who were role models and mentors to you, in not just in the haiku side, but in Haiga? Who inspired you?
Well, it's certainly in the haiku circles. I mean, I probably could mention this now. I've been very fortunate to collaborate. I counted up the other day, over 40 people I've collaborated with, writing everything from, well, mainly Renku and of course Gary Gay's Renge, which I love. I've written with some amazing poets over the years, and people that were very accomplished in those forms. And I was fortunate to get into a couple of groups with Matthew Paul of England and the late Paul McNeill and Ferris Gilly. And we did very well, winning a number of times the Haiku Society of America's Renku competition. And I learned a lot from that. And I learned, I'd recommend to people, if they want to, collaborative forms or linking and shifting type forms are an excellent learning tool. And they're an excellent learning tool for Haiga as well, which we'll probably talk about a bit further on, but because the linking and shifting from the image to your haiku, so you're not just illustrating the image. But yeah, the people that, people like Ferris Gilly and Christopher Herald and people like that, John Stevenson,
John is fantastic. I mean, I think he's
John,
one of the best. I think he shies away from having people praise him that much, but he's one of the best. I've not seen a clinker out of John.
No, and he has a wonderful, I'd call it a style, but he just has a wonderful view of life, and he writes it. It comes out in his haiku and that. Yeah,
the other thing is, we're talking about linking and shifting. That it reminds me, that's what Bill Higginson once said. He said, if you don't understand linking and shifting, if you don't understand Renku, you can't understand haiku.
Yeah.
Comment. I mean, explain how that works for people so they understand what linking and shifting is.
Well, I guess it's I guess so you're not writing just a clean sentence. You have that part, that fragment and phrase, either on the first line or the last line, but it shifts. You get the juxtaposition, or it shifts well. I mean, or it links. I mean, there's lots of tools. I mean, we could list. There's lots of them, and some of them have come out on those haiku handbook, how to write haiku. There's lots of tools, as we know, for writing haiku. Contrast and association and all those sorts of things. But I think it helps you. It helps you. You might have a first line, but then the second and third line will link in some way, but then there'll be a strong shift away. But in some way, it's still linked. And I guess that comes out a lot in Haiga. You might have an image. It could be abstract even, or it could be clearly what it is. But there might be just something in there that you see as I can link to that image and then shift it away to somewhere else, but they still resonate, they still work with each other. And I think that's where there's a lot of room and scope in Haiga for people to work. I know I hear the term photo haiku a lot. Sorry, photo haiku, it's okay, but it's sort of a kind of a label, and it's a little bit restrictive. I find there's a lot that can be done in Haiga, in modern Haiga, using all sorts of any type of apps or multimedia or anything you can think of, scratching in the sand or throwing cold tea on a piece of paper. There's just, and then writing on it. It's unlimited. It's all about really creativity, and that's what really gets me going. And it's just the chance to be creative. And I absolutely love sort of seeing an image. It's a bit like when you're out walking and you're writing haiku, or looking for haiku, or waiting to haiku to find you. There's quite often an image will come to you or find you as well. And that image, you feel, oh yes, that's something special about that. And then later you'll bring it home in some way, and you'll look at it on your screen or whatever, and think, yeah, I can write something really well to that. And then, of course, for me, for my brain, the way I think, I then start looking for, how can I present that? How can I present that in a design, creative way? And which led me, of course, to doing a lot of book covers and things like that, because I suppose I've got a creative design sort of gene in me somewhere. So I really enjoy it.
I want to tell people, if they buy a book of yours, they're not just buying a bunch of haiku printed on a page. Everything that Ron has ever put out, all of his books are illustrated. And I said about one of yours, I said, it's like I want to take the cover and frame it, it's
Thanks.
Yeah. But that part of linking and shifting is that I want to focus on is Eric Almond said it in his book, little book, came out in the 60s, little paperback book, The Wordless Poem. And he said that haiku is a collaboration between the poet and the reader. And so when I read your poems, I read them in light of my life, what my feelings, all the things that have happened. I don't know what's behind yours. And that's the linking and shifting that you have to put it into the poem, so that if you put everything in, there's nothing for the reader.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And we know when we read a haiku that just, all the bells go off, because we can put our own thoughts and feelings and our own experiences into those lovely gaps that the poet left. But of course, if it's all spelled out, and if it's all sort of told to you, then there's nothing there for you to be involved with and to feel. So yeah, that's where we know great haiku that have been written over the years, and the ones we go back to, that's how they make us feel. I can feel something in that. Yeah.
But also, I want to say about your haiga, you are as likely to have a photograph, watercolors, ink,
Painting. Yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen you feel restricted about what the medium is that you're gonna deal with, and so that people have a clear understanding. I have seen you put watercolor, ink, and a photograph into one.
Yeah. The purists would think I was absolutely crazy. Why would you do that? You're either a photographer or you're a painter. Why would you? But it's kind of, great painters have used collage. They've stuck leaves or thrown dirt onto their paintings or whatever. So I think for me, I don't want to be not stuck in a rut, but I just don't want to be doing kind of the same thing all the time. So, I've used Photoshop extensively for over 20 years. So, I'm very proficient at that. But having said that, I use my phone, my mobile phone a lot. And there's a great app on that called Snapseed, all one word, Snapseed. It's available through Google now. It's free. And with that, you can put text on the image, you can change the image, you can put filters on it, you can adjust the image, you can do everything that you need to do. But, and yes, I mean, you're right. I try different things, and I don't sort of get stuck in the one medium at all. And that's what I enjoy doing. And yeah, you can scan things. I mean, if you've got a scanner, you can scan a leaf, or you can scan this or whatever, and put it all together. And then I'd have to say, from the very beginning, I realized that I was taking on two disciplines. For me, I never wanted my haiku to just sort of be seen as a prop to the image, and the image to prop to the haiku. So from the very early days, I was determined to publish and work hard at putting out and getting accepted by some great editors like yourself. Haiku, standalone haiku, just haiku by itself, and my collections are filled with those previously published haiku. But then the joy for me is, yeah, but then I've got this published haiku that I published, but now I might see if I can find a bit of art. So it's like another life. I can give something another life, and that's been the real joy of my practice, my Haiga and haiku practice, is being able to do that. I'm very fortunate, that I got the time and energy and love to do that.
Well, one of the things too, that the one thing that I enjoy about you is that sometimes people get into too heavy a contrast. You can be so subtle sometimes, and that's a contrast too. Sometimes people say, "Oh, well, the image and the poem, they seem very similar," but they're not when you look at them. There's another level of meaning when you see it. So, and yours have a wild range. Some of your things are so, that I have 3 of yours in a triptych hanging right outside my office.
Yes, I remember that. Yeah.
And it's beautiful. And people come over to my house and they say, "What is that?" And then they see the words. It's a whole new opportunity to tell people about haiku. But you have been very flexible in terms of what you do, and I'm of the same mind as you are. As far as I'm concerned, Haiga is an image with a poem.
Exactly. Yeah.
How you create it is really not as interesting to me as the fact that it exists. And if we have so many things, it's just, I'm off on my own thing, but I hate it when we keep there's photo haiku, and then there's the real Haiga, and then there's this thing, and there's that thing. We've chopped it up into little pieces. I think that the truth is we're all doing the same thing. It's just what the medium is. And the other thing you bring up is a major point. With the experience we have with these things is you can take a heck of a good picture and manipulate it and put it together, and you don't have to be a Ron Moss ink art and watercolor artist in order to have an excellent Haiga.
That's right. Yeah. And what I find interesting is you might capture an image, and then if you just allow yourself to play and go and have a creative, good time with it, you can take something that it might be a light bulb. I think I remember an image I took. It was just a light bulb in a ceiling, but a really big, unusual one. And I just took that in all sorts of directions and painted it and put filters on it, and it became something wildly different. And then that allowed me to then write a haiku that was wildly different as well. So I guess that's, if you look at my selection, I got a when that gallery comes out with the Haiku Foundation, I was actually amazed that I picked out 30 that actually didn't have any similar design to them. They were all quite different, which surprised me a bit. But it's because, I guess it's that, I mean, as you know, I judge a fair few things. I judge the competition, the Haiga competition for failed haiku that comes out every year. And then I've now taken on a editor's role with Contemporary Haibun Online. So, and I've done 2 or 3 issues of that, and now just done another one. And I also selected the Haiga for the print version of that, which has just been rebooted by Red Moon. Yeah, Contemporary Haibun. Because in the early days, Contemporary Haibun was actually a print journal for a number of years with Red Moon Press. So they've just brought out a new one. So I had a great time going through failed haiku journal issues and lots of other places looking for Haiga. And I was gratified. I was really gratified to see that people are trying different things, and not just putting, very bland text or basic text on a photo, but they're trying to position it in different ways, putting filters, painting them. Yeah, because iPads, the invented, iPads, as you know, they've heaps and heaps of apps you can put on iPad that can change and do all sorts of things with an image. So, yeah, there's no limit. The only limits we put on it are the limits we put on ourselves. So,
I think people need to understand that they can do it. I mean,
yeah,
you started out, we both started out when Photoshop first came out. I mean, we were both struggling trying to figure out how to make things work in it. There's only about 1,000 different tools, and that's in the standard Photoshop. So it can get you crazy. But the truth is, if you're just looking for, if you look at your experience is partly visual and partly up here, and so you sort of have the opportunity to put the two together. And I think Haiga is, I love it. And I've often told people too, and if you're starting out, particularly if you're an artist, start by stealing somebody else's poem. I'm thinking Basho. He's out of copyright. So that was my first experience with Haiga, was taking poems of Basho in the 90s and putting them with my photographs. So
yeah.
I think you do similar things too.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, some of the poets, I love, like Rokan, the Japanese poet, and Zen monk, and Basho, and because as you say, they are out of copyright, those sort of things. I remember Bill Higginson told me off once for not putting the translator down. Make sure you put down who translated it. All right, okay. But that's a great thing about these. Well, they're mentors, of course. They're mentors, and I was actually on a list somewhere. I think it was one of the Yahoo lists in the early days that Bill Higginson was on. And he was very supportive of us young poets starting out. And I had a great friend in Jean Murtha.
Mm-hmm.
You remember Jean?
Oh, do we? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you have you run that competition, Senru competition every year, in his honour. But him and I, we weren't bad boys, but we certainly pushed. We certainly pushed the limits on just exactly what you could write, and we were probably writing a lot of Senru back then, and stuff that Jean was never shy of writing about the real, the stuff.
The thing with Jean is Jean was a character, and so every once in a while I had to give him a cooling off period, because he'd take it off, and he finally he understood me. I said I threw him off for 2 weeks at a time when he'd get too crazy. But other people just send him away. But I loved Gene, and we were friends until he passed away. But he had that freedom, and that's what happened. That kind of freedom, people that are free to say anything and use any topic. Alan Pizzarelli is the same way. Alexis Rotella is the same way. Roberta Bury is the same way. I mean, they're fearless. And so they taught me something about being fearless as a poet.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and those three names you mentioned, yeah, they were great mentors, great examples of what we could do. Yeah, when we were growing up with when we testing out our wings and trying to write this wonderful form. So yes, yeah, I'm so pleased. I mean, I got to meet you at the the conference that was held at the Queen Mary.
Yeah.
That was, I think I'd gone to heaven when I went there, because I just met, I've been conversing with these people through emails for decades, and then suddenly they're right in front of me and I'm meeting them, and the whole, I think it was 3 or 4 days, I can't remember now, but it was just a blur. Yeah, it was just a blur for me. I wish I could have recorded every minute of it, because it was, mind blowing to meet all these people.
Well, and not only that, one of the things you discover, the best poets are also fun people.
Yes.
And they're good to be around. They have a sense of humor, and they're self-deprecating in the sense that we all have had poems that we thought were really cool that didn't get published. We couldn't get them published. Probably it did us a favor. But where can people find where can people find work published by you? What I know that you're Heron's Nest, you mentioned that earlier, but where else?
Yeah, well, I try and spread the joy around a little bit. But yeah, usually I send out to Presence and Heron's Nest, Frog Pond at different times. I guess all the main journals, Kokako, which is a lovely little New Zealand journal, Hedgerow. I mean, the Wales Journal. That's an online one. I know that I see there's more and more of these print journals, print-on-demand journals that are bought out. Unfortunately, the postage is such a killer at the moment. I saw someone the other day say, $25 now to get something, international. It's becoming costs more than the book by quite a bit. But anyway, so yeah, all the sort of online journals, print journals. Actually, I think it's next year. I've got. I was really pleased to get the cover of Modern Haiku, which is a wonderful journal. Yeah, and some Haiga in the middle of the book. So I'm really pleased when I can get Haiga into not just me personally, but when Haiga can be put into journals that have always just been just text. I know it's a bigger cost if it's colour, but Frog Pond started putting. I'm not sure if they still are, but they certainly when Chris Patchell was editor, they had Haiga in there. So those sort of places, and I suppose I could talk about my books.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, people are probably familiar with the Bone Carver. That won the Snapshot Press Book Award and was published by John Barlow. That went on to very fortunate, went on to win a Touchstone in the Haiku Foundation Touchstone. It was also an honourable mention in the Merit Book Award, Haiku Society of America. So that went into a second printing, and it's still available through Snapshot Press. So that I got some really good advice from an editor friend who said, if you're thinking about bringing out a book, just wait. Wait for probably even 10 years. Wait till you've got a good collection of work to choose from. Yeah, you're better to put out a book after 10 years than put out 3 or 4 over 10 years, and the quality might not be as high. So, and I think that was very good advice. So I did that, and then after that came Bushfire Moon. Yeah, so these covers, they're all my sort of artwork covers, but this was a pretty special book for me because I'd always, when I was writing, I always wrote about my experiences in as a fire and rescue person, whether it be car crashes or house fires or bushfires, of course, which, you know, Australia, like California and places in America, you know, are prone to. And I wrote not just haiku, I wrote Haibun, which is a form I love, but I don't tend to write a lot of it. But I do at times write some Haibun, and even some tanka is in there. So that came out a little while back and was well received. And as I said, a lot of people I know that are sort of in the first responders have read it and really, you know, felt how powerful it was in that. And for me, it was a very good way of debriefing what I've seen. You know, what it's important, you know, to find some way to otherwise it just builds up. A lot of people, you know, they think they're okay, and then all of a sudden one thing tips them over the edge. So it's very important to debrief. And for me, and some people found a couple of the Haibun a bit too much, in that they were, you know, because of the emergency feeling, a moment that was happening. But it gave them a look into that world, which is important. So after that is my, I think it was last year, Broken Starfish.
I
So
love
that was
it. That's my favorite.
Thanks, Mike. Yeah. That one, well, that got an honourable mention in the Touchstone, which was lovely, because a lot of great books that year, as you know, Mike, because you're a judge in the Touchstone. And I've been a judge in the haiku. I did that 3 years in the Touchstone Haiku Award, and that's a great experience. And I guess that leads me to putting back. I mean, it's, you know, I've heard other poets talk about it, and I know Sue and Roberta talked about it too, is that, you know, it's one of the most important things is to give back to the community, you know, the community that's sort of given you so much and nurtured you along. And it's important that we keep adding to the stream, so to speak, you know, because it makes us all stronger for it. And there's a great saying that if you want to really know and understand something, try and teach it. It's when you try and teach it, which I've done a little bit of, you know, in schools. I love teaching in schools, because especially to the young ones, because they're just so open and so receptive. And I actually went to a school and did all the grades over, right from entry level right through, and it was just a mind-blowing few days. At different ages looked at haiku, but they were really taken by the art and haiku, I found. So that's because, I mean, children are naturally creative and very visual. And so to them, the art, just being able to, you know, scratch something on, do a bit of a painting and then write something was just mind-blowing for them. So, which they do, I mean, let's face it, they do it naturally anyway. Yeah, quite a lot. So yeah, that was a wonderful, wonderful thing to do. And other things, look, I was fortunate. I was in one of the new residence ones. That's number 4. That's a fair way back now.
Yeah.
So that was probably one of the first collections I was in. And then just quickly, I mean, people are familiar with these. I had a collection in Alan Burns and Jim Cation's. I had a page of haiku in that. And this is a beautiful book. You know, I'd recommend, you know, it's a beautiful, beautiful book that was bought once again edited by Alan Burns and John Barlow. And there's an essay. It's sort of a history of people through the of haiku people through the decades. And it's got a wonderful, it's got an essay, probably 3 or 4 page essay before each collection of haiku from each poet. And I think there's about 20, 25 haiku. And I was very fortunate to get into that. It's a beautiful book. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, and most of those, the Snapshot Press, the Bone Carver book's available from Snapshot Press, and the other books are available from me just through my email. it's the best way to get them. Yeah, and I'll send them off.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, they're worth it just to hold them in your hand sometimes and look at them, because your covers and the illustrations inside are fantastic. People miss that sometimes, and yeah, you have a very interesting way of incorporating everything together in your books. I mean, it's a total package that really resonates. So I can highly recommend them. Are you working on anything now? Is there anything else in the hopper?
Funny you should say that. Yes, I was just working on it recently. I've been putting the final touches to my next collection, which is tentatively titled Cloud Hands, which is a little bit of a, because I practice Tai Chi, there's a lovely movement in Tai Chi called Cloud Hands. And to me, it had a lovely sort of spiritual feel to it as well. It's sort of almost the essence of haiku, which I think you mentioned when I told you about the title. And that's going to have, I'm probably leaning towards abstract sort of ink paintings in this one. So just to break the chapters up. And that's once again going to have well over 100 haiku from, from the last, certainly from the last few years, but also some other haiku that didn't make it into the other journals, the other print books I had. And also, I have some Haibun that'll probably go in it as well. So yeah, that'll be nice at the end. Yeah.
Something to look forward to.
Yes, it'll come out this year, hopefully. I mean, in the age of sort of ordering books, print on demand type books, but I do like getting a box of books and then having a box in a book in your hand, and then be able to send them out, to people around the world. Hopefully, with COVID, things starting to improve, around that world, that the freight and the postage system will start to operate better. I've had books that took 8 or 9 weeks, nearly 3 months to get somewhere. But yeah, I mean,
it's been a real tough time right now, particularly because it seems like everything is going through an extra set of sifters and strainers just because of what we're going through.
Quarantine. Yeah. But, I think that some countries completely wouldn't take any mail at all. There's some countries in Europe that just refuse to take any mail from anywhere in the world. So, so we're fortunate. I mean, but they were leaving things in quarantine, I'm sure. So if there was any sort of virus on them, that they wouldn't be transferred. So, yeah.
It's been a tough time for that, but I can tell you the Cloud Hands, when it comes out, will have a purchaser in me. You can fill your hands full and send me some, because I have given your books out to people. And I want to reiterate with something you said. The best way to learn haiku is to read good haiku. And you write some of the clearest images, and there's nothing about what you produce, Ron, and I'm a fan, so I can go ahead and say it. What you produce is so well done. It's like an example for other people. Yeah, so I would recommend anybody, you get a chance to get Cloud Hands, put your hands on it.
Thanks, Mike. Yeah.
Ron, one more thing. I just want to give you a chance to cap it off, but what do you want people to take away from this interview about Ron Moss?
Well, I guess, I just encourage people, to write what inspires them, write what I always used to say, if I'm going to sit down and write a poem, I want it to sort of almost the hairs on the back of my neck to stand up. I mean, don't always try and write that huge classic that's going to, because you might, I think Basho said, if you write 1 or 2 good haiku in your lifetime, you're a master, or you're doing well. So And I think daily, you know, if you can write daily, it's like anything. If you don't practice it, if it's not a discipline, then it just won't. You won't see the result of it. There's a saying, even in Tai Chi, that yeah, that 1 year's worth of practice is worth 1 year of practice. So if you only if you only train half a year, then you're not going to get a year's worth of practice out. So it's a bit like haiku. So, and also, yeah, and don't try and write that killer one. Just write moments that you've seen, even if there's just a few words or one-liners. I love one-liners. I write quite a few. Some haiku just lend themselves beautifully to one line. Stuart Quinn, the sadly departed with COVID and died of COVID in England. He wrote beautiful one-line haiku, and was also a Zen practitioner, meditator as well. So we had some great conversations. Yeah, it's very sad of his loss, but yeah. So keep writing. And as far as Haiga and art, I mean, it's as I said before, it's kind of like, if you're going to take on that, it's like two disciplines, you know, and treat them like two disciplines. Don't just prop one up with the other. You know, write a haiku that you think would stand alone, and then put it with some art that you would be happy to hang on your wall. And if you think that way, then quite often you'll produce something that'll just blow your socks off, and, you know, damn anyone else. I mean, as long as you feel great about it, that's the main thing. You know, it's your life. It's your life, and what you want to do with it, and yeah, and send it out. You know, that's another thing too. I mean, some people say, "Oh, well, I'm not going to send stuff out. Why bother?" But the thing with sending work out, as I say, it's like adding to the stream of everything else. You add a little bit, a little bit into the stream, which supports other people. I've had a lot of people come back to me and say, oh, I really enjoyed your work because it made me feel this and that, and I went off and did something for myself, and that's just wonderful when that happens. When people feel, I've been inspired by so many people, including yourself, over the years, and that inspires me to go and do some work, to pick something up, to find a way to show and tell something that means something to me, and hopefully, yeah, it might mean something to someone else, and I'll send it out, and it might get published or it might not. But that's the joy of it all.
You're writing, in the end, you are writing for yourself. You're sharing your experiences with others, and that's what we do as humans. I would hate to ever get in the spot where where all I'm doing is internalizing everything for me. But when you write, the poems that don't get published, they're as dear to me as the ones that win a contest. So it works.
That's right. And I think if you have faith in your work too, and then sometimes you might send something out, you might send 7 or 8 haiku and only 2 get chosen. So, but never throw the other 6 away, or never throw the ones that didn't get chosen away, because I mean, quite often an editor can't. Might only be looking for 1 or 2. So that's not to say the rest weren't great as well. So, and if you have faith in your work, if you feel a particular poem is damn good and it should be published, well, keep sending it out there, you know, and you'll find, and you know, allow yourself to take some editorial feedback if it's given to you. I mean, that's a great thing, a gift an editor will give you if they'll, you know, give you some sort of support and feedback about something.
Yeah, and that's also another reason to do collaborations, because a lot of times when you're doing a renge, somebody will say, "That's nice, Ron, but how about this?"
Exactly. Yeah.
and you know, that's the kind of thing that keeps you going. But hey, we could probably talk all day, but and we may. But I really appreciate you doing this, and I can't tell people below this YouTube video. You're going to find plenty of links to Ron's work, and subscribe to his YouTube page. You will not be disappointed, and buy his books when they come out, because you won't want to throw them away. I told people one time I had a guarantee. I did a review of one of your books, and I said, if you buy this book and you don't like it, send it to me. I'll pay you back plus the shipping. I'll buy it from you. No books came back, Ron. Anyway,
Right.
thank you so much from Australia. I'm going to shut this recording off right now before we keep going forever.
Okay. Thanks, Mike. Thanks for everything.
Thank you.